humblest of regards to the fellow members of the Alpha branch of the Utopia. And now, commencing video. Hello everyone, my name is the one and only Silverreploid Xiaoli. How are you guys doing on YouTube? That's right, the Silverreploid / Inkling coming at you live looking fresh in the flesh on the net, stream or non-stream, and welcome back everyone to another video. Hope you guys are having a very blessed and safe Monday this far, and let's just jump into our only upload for today, which is reacting to some SCP laboratory based content, although in this one is the SCP animation and story, which is explanatory if you will. In today's episode we're looking at is SCP-049 or 049, simply put, the Plague Doctor captured. So we're officially at the week of Halloween, although it is going to be pretty stormy where I live because, well, it's supposed to get like pouring down rain when Halloween arrives. So for those who are going to be undergoing a storm on that day, I recommend that you stay indoors because, well, going trick-or-treat at this point is rather pointless considering that it's going to be pouring down rain, cats and dogs and everything. But me, myself, I'm going to stay indoors because, well, why not? Either way, guys, I think for tomorrow's Q&A video that I intend to do for this week's Q&A, I might wear my costumes, so you'll definitely be anticipating me wearing a costume just for the occasion of since, yeah, Halloween's around the corner and everything, and I hope you guys are also taking care of yourselves. So yeah, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get to this explanatory story chapter right here of SCP. Before we start, guys, the Plague Doctor, this one is called the Plague Doctor Captured. Before I commence the reaction, everyone, for those who are new to the channel, thank you all very much as always for tuning in, and of course, giving the channel a very excellent glimpse. Your everlasting love and support are greatly appreciated by yours truly. Do not hesitate to like this video if you enjoyed, leave your comments down below, and please subscribe for more content with the notifications activated. And of course, big shout out to the members on behalf of the Utopian branch. If you too also want to become a member on behalf of the Utopia, please do not hesitate to refer to the join button, review the perks, and it'll be granted to you by yours truly. Make sure you subscribe to SCP Explained for more explanatory stories. As always, guys, I'm going to add the channel in the usual areas: DCO, description, comments, and outro. And with that being said, everyone, let us go ahead and commence reaction to this video. We shall see how it goes, and that'll be all for today's reactions. Rolling clip now. This video features original stories based on inspired SCP Foundation. Some details and accounts of events, people, and places have been dramatized.
The esteemed Dr. Thomas Morstead entered the cell of the anomaly. He'd been warned and even chastised by his colleagues.
Oh.
But who in the Foundation could tell him what to do? He was the best at what he did. Maybe the greatest in the whole history of the Foundation. As he entered the room, SCP-049 bid him welcome, cordial as always. So polite, in fact, that you'd never guess you were talking to a killer. Dr. Morstead knew the truth of what he was dealing with, but he also believed he could get through to 049. Calm him, exorcise the devil from him. It was the meeting of two great minds, one of them human, one of them part human, part something that has never been clear.
An entity, in other words.
It was to be a battle of wits, and like so many great battles, this one would turn into a massacre. Before we get to that fateful meeting, there are some things you should know about the anomaly known as SCP-049. If you saw him in the street, the first thing you'd think of is plague, because 049 always looked the same. A man dressed in black robes with a plague doctor's mask. This wasn't a costume that could be taken off. In fact, it wasn't a costume at all. It was him.
So this is his actual look,
like an
and not a masked edition of him.
That mask with the pointed nose wasn't covering his face. It was his face. A kind of shell that had seemingly sprouted from bone. The first reports came during World War II. In a picturesque town in the south of France called Montauban, people had begun going missing. Children disappeared from their beds in the middle of the night and weren't seen again. Adults went to the market and never returned. Local authorities searched high and low. They scoured nearby woods and dragged the rivers, but nothing was found. Because what was happening wasn't criminal, there was no clue they could stumble upon or eyewitness who would break the case. No, this was something else. Something that the townsfolk could never understand. Word spread.
It was unfathomable.
And that's when a search and discovery team was sent from the Foundation. It was a cold, dark night in January of 1941 when the team found what they were looking for. They walked through the open door of a small house located not too far from the Grand Chateau de Richelieu to find a masked man sitting next to an open fire. And he wasn't alone. The floor around him looked like it was moving. Upon closer inspection, the team saw that the floor was covered with writhing, grasping bodies. It's patients, as it called them. Bienvenue chez moi, said the thing. Welcome to my home. Those so-called patients crawled towards the team, intent it seemed to cause harm. The hostiles, now known as SCP-049-2s, were deemed dangerous and had to be eliminated. A sight, it seemed, that didn't bother 049 in the slightest. It just sat there, occasionally looking up from writing notes in a leather-bound book as his patients were gunned down. Once the carnage ended, it simply closed its book, stood up, and allowed itself to be escorted away. And that's the story of how 049 ended up at the facility, becoming a guest of sorts, staying in a standard secure humanoid containment cell, Research Sector 02, Site 19. The few that came into contact with 049 remarked that it was a pleasure for them. With its impeccable manners, vast knowledge of medicine and human anatomy, sharp tongue, and stinging wit. They almost became spellbound listening to it, caught in the throes of its charms until, with the simple touch of its hand, it would drain the life from them. That's why SCP-049 was classified as a Euclid. That's why armed guards were always stationed outside its cell. It's why doctors took great precautions when in its presence, and it's why Dr. Morstead should have known better. Remember,
kidding.
When 049 was discovered in France, it willingly went with the team, like it was happy it had been found, as if it had planned its own capture. When it arrived at the facility, it didn't act like it was contained against its will. It was like it was returning home. Initial findings as to the biology of 049 were that it didn't require any sustenance at all, not even water. It seemed content to be left alone with its notebooks. It did not object when it was asked if it could share some of its notes.
Am I the only one who finds it ironic that a strange creature, as strange as him, is actually some sort of scientist that studies things and everything?
Discovered that they were written in the language that no linguist or cryptologist has so far been able to translate. It's apparent that 049 derives much satisfaction from seeing so-called experts struggle over its text. Unable to read those notes, a long line of doctors visited 049 in its cell, each fascinated by what they knew. It was learned that it has traveled the globe. It speaks many languages, but prefers to speak what it calls les langues de l'amour, French. It asked for only one thing: warm-blooded animals. The facility agreed to supply 049 with various kinds, including rabbits, cattle, and even an ape on one occasion. Just like with humans, it could kill the animals with a mere touch of its hand, sucking the life right out of them. But that wasn't even the most incredible part. Soon those animals would rise again, as if reanimated by 049. They would become, for all intents and purposes, the living dead. And they were hostile. After several unfortunate incidents, they were taken from the cell the moment they arose and disposed of in the incinerator.
So basically 049 has some animals plague-like incantation to turn animals into his own pawns.
For it, the world was sick. It saw plague and pestilence everywhere, and the meaning of its existence was to rid the world of disease. Humans, it said, contained a virus and had to be cleansed. In the first days after arriving at the facility, 049 didn't seem to pose a threat to humans. It was quite friendly, in fact. It seemed aware of the fear it caused instead.
Why did that monkey
go out of
hostile?
its way to make them feel comfortable and safe. This was a ruse, of course, or a canard, as 049 liked to say. It had no intention to help humans. No, it had come for humans. It wasn't trapped. It had set a trap. One of the first people to truly upset 049 was Dr. Raymond Ham, a well-respected physician that had twice been a contender for the Nobel Prize for his more mainstream work. What had confused Dr. Ham the most was not 049's clothes-like exoskeleton, or even his ability to reanimate the dead, but the bag that it used. 049 was somehow able to pull a seemingly endless supply of surgical tools from that bag. Sometimes it would even pull out objects that were somehow larger than the bag itself. It was as if the bag connected to somewhere else. And that's what Dr. Ham wanted to talk about on that fateful day. With 049 on one side of the cell and Dr. Ham on the other, he asked, "How is it that you can produce a great quantity of tools from that bag? I've observed you, and it seems to me that you are doing the impossible." "Dear doctor," replied 049, "the scourge, the great dying, cannot be fought with a handful of toys. My bag is merely the product of my imagination. It gives me what I require. You, dear sir, it seems, are limited by your imagination." It stopped for a second or two and stared at Dr. Ham. "I detect you are unwell," it said, in a voice not as amiable as before. It's just a cold, said the doctor. Ah, just a cold.
Or is it
You
the
had
plague?
seen what I have seen. You would not utter such insulting words. Dr. Ham pulled out some papers from a briefcase and approached 049, holding them close enough so it could read them. You see, said Dr. Ham, pointing to the results on the paper, those animals you say you cured, they were not diseased. They were perfectly healthy before they died, and your so-called cure, it turned them into something quite terrible. We found that if they were left alone, they began to eat each other, and then themselves.
Like
049
cannibalism.
did not respond, and after a brief pause said only,
So technically,
"A good day
he's
to
not
you.
really just a doctor.
Please
He's
close the
more
door.
like,
You should get some rest."
oh,
Ham refused to go, and instead turned the conversation to this real interest, the bag, demanding that 049 let him see inside of it. Very well, Doctor, 049 said. In private.
what the?
049 began to pull a series of long metal poles out of its bag, followed by a rolled-up curtain that it hung between them, creating a kind of medical tent around Dr. Ham. It seemed to stare for just a moment into the observation camera outside of itself before whipping the curtain shut. Dr. Ham was discovered 3 hours later, crawling around the floor of 049's cell, now another mindless undead. When he was retrieved by security, 049 didn't even look up from his notebook. Dr. Ham didn't get the incinerator treatment, but he did receive a fatal dose of drugs, a mercy. A removal team was sent to 049's cell, but it had said there was no need for special extraction techniques. It would go willingly, wherever they wanted to go. It was not, it said, an enemy of the people. The Hippocratic Oath forbids me to hurt a human being, it said while walking to the interrogation center. My only desire is to offer you my services and expertise. The floors and
What
walls
type
of
of
the interrogation
expertise, I
center room
wonder?
were painted a
Well,
bright
actually,
white.
I don't want to
Even
know.
the table was white, which contrasted with 049, a mass of black sitting in the middle of the room. During the interrogation, it refused to admit or even accept that it had killed Dr. Ham. I cured him. I removed the pestilence from his body, it said. It was later asked if it regretted its actions, to which it replied, well, good sir, one always regrets the loss of a colleague for any reason, but I stand by my actions. The pestilence must be abated before it is too late. Every 2 weeks from that point, 049 was given animals. The scientists at the facility observed it time and again, touching the animals, killing them, before producing a saw or scalpel and opening them up. Organs would be carefully removed with perfect precision. It was astounding to even trained surgeons just how talented 049 was. I require a close relative of yours, said 049 one day to a young doctor, who expressed shock that it was asked for one of the doctor's family members. I mean a great ape, said 049, not your dear aunt. There were several instances of 049 displaying a crude sense of humor. Staff would almost forget that the thing that they were talking to wasn't human, almost. And it was Dr. Thomas Morstead that had supplied the great apes, orangutans in fact, that had been rescued from the rainforests of Borneo, only to be taken to 049's cell. Then one day something changed. 049 told Dr. Morstead that its work was done, that it accomplished what it had wanted to do, and could someone remove the cured animal from its cell? I think you'd find that it's quite the work of art. A triumph, 049 said through the intercom. When the removal team entered the cell, they found the orangutan, or what was left of it. It was lying in the corner of the cell. The top of its skull had been removed, leaving its brain exposed. On its face was the expression of relaxation, and from its mouth it issued very soft squeaks, like that of an infant. 049 said, tell Dr. Morstead that its rage mechanism no longer exists. I've removed the amygdala and made some changes to the hypothalamus and limbic system. It is cured and quite harmless. The next day, Dr. Morstead announced that he wanted to visit 049's cell himself, after which he heard a chorus of
I'm
disapproval
having a
from
hard
his
time wrapping
colleagues,
my head around this
all
one,
telling him
honestly.
that 049 was now too dangerous. Dr. Ham was sick, replied Morstead, and 049 has assured us that he would never take another human life. He's never lied to us, and I'm going to take him at his word.
So he
It appeared
doesn't
that
help
049
humans,
had
he's not
created
willing
the
to help
perfect
humans.
specimen. So what
When
was
it comes
next?
to animals, though,
Dr. Morstead had to know.
it's like,
Everyone is sick, 049 told Dr. Morstead after the two had talked for a couple of minutes. The great pandemic has started. Fear not, doctor. I have a cure. No longer will you humans spread your disease. I'm afraid you are wrong, replied the doctor. This pandemic you speak of does not exist. We can happily live with our pathogens. We have done so for millennia. Dr. Morstead became angry that he couldn't get through to 049. I'm afraid you are suffering from paranoia. It is you who need to be cured. You have no idea, said
Uh-oh.
049, standing up. What are you doing? Shouted Morstead. You promised you wouldn't hurt a human again. I'm not hurting you. I'm healing you. 049 said
Saying
and
that
leapt
he's
across
healing
the
the
room in
human is a
flash,
complete understatement
placing
at
a
this
hand
point.
on the doctor's head. Morstead slumped to the ground. They were being watched in the observation room, and this had gone too far. He had to be moved to the containment cells, permanently. Mobile Task Force Epsilon 11 was right on the scene and burst through the door. No imagination, 049 said to himself. Those humans have no imagination at all. He began walking towards the task force, who opened fire on the anomaly, but the bullets bounced off its black coat and mask. SCP-049 calmly touched each of the members of the task force, one by one, draining the life from them. The last one standing stopped firing and attempted to run, but again 049 leapt across the room, black cape billowing out behind him, and gently touched the man, causing him to drop to the floor. 049
Lifeless.
stepped over the bodies of the fallen team and walked out of the containment cell. The full details of what happened next are available only to the O5 Council, what are sometimes called the Overseers. The redacted report that is available reads, Standard Secure Humanoid Containment Cell, Research Sector 02, Site 19, Subject, SCP-049. Date of breach, redacted. Euclid class SCP-049 breached cell and subsequently gained access to adjoining rooms and nearby buildings. Breach lasted approximately 3 days and 5 hours. Total casualties, redacted, with redacted number of survivors requiring incineration therapy. Course of action. Department of Science Alchemy Division suggested injecting anti-transmogrify disinfectant into Class D former prisoners who were transported to site and allowed them to come into contact with SCP-049. SCP failed to reanimate injected prisoners and cure them. SCP-049 acknowledged this failure and surrendered to Mobile Task Force Alpha-1. SCP-049 then requested to be contained. Present containment under responsibility of redacted. Present location of SCP-049, redacted. End of report.
So as far as the casualties, as far as the people that have been infected, it's, judging by how redacted those results were, it's probably an overwhelming number, but given that this guy has a track record of the many casualties and everything else that he may have caused, it's goes to show you that this one might be bad news, even though he claims that he is indeed a doctor who triggered the diseases to the animals and human life. And oh my gosh, so in this scenario of SCP, ladies and gentlemen, it goes to show you that this doctor in particular, I don't think can be trusted, given that he may cause certain unexpected casualties and whatnot, despite him attempting to do a cure, even though, well, I don't know why the heck he's called a doctor in the first place, given, yeah, either way. So yeah, that right there was the Plague Doctor captured, the reaction to the video, and oh my gosh, it was just, I don't know which is more heinous. Maybe it's all the more reason to find out when I've reacted to more of these. Now, next week and so forth, I might react to more of this stuff on Mondays, considering that since I've already finished reacting to some little POTUS animations, unless there's a certain one in the near future coming forth, only time we'll define that. For the time being, I might react to more of these SCP explanatory stories. So with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed reacting to this video. Thank you all very much for watching. If you like this one, however, smack the thumbs up button, leave your comments down below, subscribe for more with the notifications activated. Make sure you subscribe to SCP Explains. I'm going to add the channel in the usual areas: DCO, description, comments, and outro. And guys, my social media, Twitch, and my song lists are provided in the description of the video. If you want to commission a song made by me that you can use for your content, listen to it in general, etc., please do not hesitate to let me know via social media. We'll go from there. And with that being said, guys, there are more to come soon. This is me, Silverreploid, signing off. I love you guys very much. Stay fresh in the flesh and off the hook. And on behalf of Utopia, I'll catch every single one of you in the next video. Have a blessed and safe Monday, everyone. And of course, take care of yourselves. And yeah, stay safe. I love you guys. If you love music, and if you would like to partake in supporting my channel by purchasing music, please refer to my song list down below. Hey guys, Silverreploid CLE here. I want to thank all of you for watching this video. Please smash on the like button, subscribe for more content if you're new, and please turn on the push notifications. And also, please make sure you check out my other videos or any video on display and show tons of love and support for not only me, but to those who are also involved. Have a great one, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!